Om Sthapakaya cha dharmasya sarvadharmaswarupine avatara varishtaya Ramakrishnaya te namah. So we are continuing our discussion on the ontological views of Dvaita Siddhanta, that is Madhvacharya's view, which is very interesting, especially after going through the other two schools of Vedanta, Advaita and Visishtadvaita. Now, at the beginning of our discussion of the Dvaitins' ontological theories, the concept of the absolute reality, we already mentioned that the Dvaitins, or that is Madhva's Dvaita philosophy, accepts that there are two types of realities. That is Vishnu, Madhva's concept of the monotheistic Godhead, and the phenomenal world and all other living beings. Now, so all are real, unlike Advaitins' view. Advaita tells you that Brahman is only reality, everything else is mithya, which again we should remember does not mean absolute non-existence. Mithya always implies what is real only in the relative sense. So that should be very clearly understood, because I think all of us can be forgiven if we misunderstand, because Madhvacharya himself misunderstood that. He was certainly a far greater scholar than any of us. So Ramanuja also terribly misunderstood the concept of mithyatvam. So if we misunderstand in 21st century, we can be very easily forgiven. So the statement I mentioned earlier, Dividham ki prameyam sudantram asudantram cha. This is a fundamental thesis. Prameya means something to be known, whatever is perceived, whatever is existing. They belong to two categories. One is Swatantra, that is absolutely independent. The other is Aswatantra, which is dependent. Now, there is a great difference between Madhva's monotheistic Godhead Vishnu and other living beings. Vishnu is Swatantra, is independent, is not dependent upon anything or anyone. But all of us and everything in this phenomenal world are fully dependent, that means Aswatantra, upon Vishnu. So, but the main difference is, Advaitins will tell you that this phenomenal world is a superimposition. Adhyaropitam is called. Superimposition, the result of adhyasa or adhyaropa. That is, just like you mistake a rope for a snake. So, we mistake this world of names and forms as the absolute reality. But Madhvacharya says there is no superimposition. Everything in this world as such real, but they are dependent on Vishnu. So Vishnu is the only dependent entity, Swatantra, but this world and different living beings, different independent souls are Aswatantra or dependent. So again, he says it's called Anadhyaropitam. It means this world and everything is as such real. In a way, it is true in the relative sense, only in the relative sense. Suppose you have mistaken a rope for a snake, and it takes half an hour for you to bring a flashlight in your room. And on the way, when you're walking to your room, you may hit against a pillar. You may get injured. You may even go to Kaiser Hospital. And then, so when you're staying 3 days in the hospital, during that time, for you, this rope is a snake. Because what you mistook, the rope, what you thought was the snake is actually a rope that, so far as you are concerned, it becomes a rope only when you bring flashlight and when you remove darkness from the room, then it is not snake, it is rope. But it may take 3 days for you to get back from the hospital because you are running for a flashlight. For 3 days, it is snake only. Where? In your mind. That's the idea behind. So, Shankaracharya's thesis is, it was a rope whether you use a flashlight or not, whether you mistake it for a snake or not, whether you mistake it for a snake and without verifying you go away, still it is a rope only. But Madhvacharya says, when we are under the delusion that it is a snake, for that time being it is a snake, so it is not superimposition. I mentioned earlier, Nama Rupa, for example, the same gold manifesting as different ornaments, rings and necklaces and so on. You wear a necklace on your neck, you wear a ring on your finger, or some other ornaments you may wear somewhere. Maybe the British king will wear his crown on his head. So with the same gold, maybe. I mean, just giving an example. So Madhvacharya will tell you these are totally different things. The ring is different from the necklace. It is different from the crown. That is Madhvacharya says. Shankaracharya will tell you, no, they are essentially the gold, only gold. Gold manifesting Nama Rupa, name and form as ring you put in your finger, manifesting as necklace you wear on your neck, manifesting as crown you wear on your head. That is what Shankaracharya will tell you, the same gold. So, that's an important thing. So, you are superimposing the shape of a necklace on gold, because the goldsmith turned that gold into the form of a necklace. So, but then you melt it, it loses its form, rupa disappears, and you don't call it necklace any longer, nama also disappears. So like that, Brahman alone exists. We are superimposing nama and rupa on Brahman, so we misunderstand this world as an absolute ontological reality. You have to remember, Madhvacharya will not agree with you if you say that it is the Paramarthika Satta, absolute reality. Transcendental reality is Brahman. Vyavaharika Satta, empirical reality is the world. He doesn't accept that. He says only one reality. Brahman is real, Vishnu is real, this pot also is real. The only difference is the pot is dependent, Vishnu is independent. Vishnu is the name that Madhvacharya gives to his concept of monotheistic Godhead. So this is an interesting. Now we are again, to do justice to the original title of the lecture series, the foundational text of Indian philosophy, I am coming to a very, very important, somewhat technical book. It's an extremely complicated book. It's called Nyaya Sudha. Nyaya Sudha is a commentary by Jayatirtha, who was a great follower of Madhvacharya, who is known as a great writer who wrote voluminous volumes, commentaries on Madhvacharya's books. So it is a commentary on one of Madhvacharya's well-known book that is called Brahma Sutra Anuvyakyanam. So he wrote many books. He wrote many highly super dialectical works like Upadhi Khandana, Mayavada Khandana, Jagat Mithyattvada Khandana, like that refutation of the idea the world is mithya, refutation of the concept of Maya, all that he has written. But one very, very important foundational book that he wrote was Anuvyakyanam on Brahma Sutra. And his great follower, who is a great saint and great scholar and writer, a prolific writer, Jayatirtha. He wrote this well-known book, Nyaya Sudha. So he says, Sarvanyapihi Vedanta Vakyani Asankheya Kalyana Gunagaram Sagala Dosha Gandha Vidhuram Ekarupameva Param Brahma. The language will get more and more complex as we proceed, but I can translate in English and elaborate it. So what he's saying is Sarvanyapi Vedanta Vakyani. Vedanta here means Upanishads. So all the important statements from the Upanishad literature, without any exception, Asankheya Kalyana Gunagaram Sagala Dosha Gandha Viduram Ekarupameva Param Brahma. They all Pratipadayanti. So all these important Upanishads, Vedantic statements, they speak of the glory of Brahman, greatness of Brahman, that is Vishnu. Asankheya Kalyana Gunagaram means it is the repository or the abode of infinite qualities, greatness, perfections, attributes, and so on. And totally free from anything that is negative, totally free from any imperfection. Here we have to remember, in some ways, the Madhva and Ramanuja systems of philosophy, they will define that they depict an idea of Godhead in some ways similar to the views of the Abrahamic traditional faith systems, Abrahamic traditions. That is, God is the repository of all conceivable attributes, qualities, and perfections. Zero negativity, all positive. Now, again, this is possible only where there is a kind of duality. Because when you portray God as the repository, as abode of Asankheya Kalyana Guna Agaram. So, it is the repository or the abode, the place where you live, of all higher attributes and qualities. Then how do you explain the other side of the reality? Because we find in this world many things which are not good. Suppose, from the Dvaita standpoint, there are arguments. In Nyayamrita, he says, so the answer is given by Vyasatirtha. Suppose you are asking this question. If you define God as the totality of all that is positive, all that is great and auspicious, then how do you explain the reality of the non-auspicious, the inauspicious, the undesirable things that you find in this world? Because according to Ramanuja, God is immanent, is antaryami, is present in everything in this world. Everything in this world is an evolute of Ishvara according to Ramanuja. Everything in this world is dependent upon Ishvara according to Madhva. Everything in this world is essentially non-different from the absolute reality according to Shankaracharya. So when Shankaracharya says that everything in this world is a manifestation of the same Brahman, but we superimpose names and forms, the implication is essentially there is only one absolute reality. But again, Shankaracharya never denies the possibility of the reality of other entities. But he says they are not absolutely real, they are only relatively real, and that relative reality is called Vyavaharika Satta, empirical reality, everyday reality. So, the world is not denied, but the fundamental impermanence of the world is emphasized, Jagat Mithya. But according to Madhva system, you find that God is the repository or abode of all perfections and attributes. Kindu, Kanichit means some other Vedantic text, some other Upanishad text, they have different view. Kindu Kanichit, Sarvajnatva, Sarveshwaratva, Sarva Antaryamitva, Saundarya Audaryadi Gunavisishtataya. But then Pratibadayanti, that's a completion. So according to some other folk, some other authors, many of these Vedantic texts depict Brahman, they represent Brahman as free from all limitations. You can find they represent all limitations and sin, sufferings, and so on. Kanichit apakata patmatva, nirdukhatva, bhaudika dekha rehitattvadi, doshabhava visishtadaya. So there are two views are given here. One view tells you that Brahman is the repository of omniscience, is the Lord of all, inner ruler Antaryami, is Antaryami means inner resident, and then Sarveshwaratva, the Lord, the controller, the regulator of everyone, and so the immanent Sarvantaryamitva, and also full of magnificence, generosity, beauty, omniscience, knowing everything, and inner ruler, all goodness and auspiciousness. So, this view is mentioned here. What are the attributes or auspicious qualities of which Brahman is the repository, the abode? Goodness, beauty, munificence, inner rulership, that is being the inner resident of all, present in everything, immanent, so to speak. So all these qualities are given. And the other view is clearly mentioned next. Kanichit, apakata patmatva, nirdukhatva, bhaudika deha rehitattvadi, dosha abhava visishtadaya. Some other Vedantic texts depict or represent Brahman as free from all limitations. So, apakata patmatva means Brahman is free from all limitations like sin, nirdukhatva, free from all sufferings and no liability, and also absolutely no physical manifestation, beyond physical manifestations. Bhaudya deha rehitatva. I mean, doesn't have a physical body, as gross body, as ordinary human beings. This is another way of representing Brahman. So, it's good, the text continues. Kanichit adi gahana jnapanaya avang manasu gocharitvadi akarayana. So some other Vedantic texts depicts the same Brahman as beyond the reach of avang manasa gocharatva, means not definable, not describable, not explicable. You cannot explain, you cannot describe, you cannot define, you cannot say anything about it. That is avang manasa gochara, beyond reach of mind and word. And then, the continues. Then another school, Kanichit sarva parityagena tasseva upadanaya advidiyatvena. And some other school will depict same Brahman as the only reality that exists. Here you find there is a clear-cut reference to Advaita, and Advaitins' view will be refuted at the end of this paragraph, though it doesn't becomes so clearly in this paragraph, but in the continuing paragraphs, Jayatirtha emphasizes that some people taking the Vedantic texts, Upanishad statements, they try to bring in artificially, without any justification, kind of sophistry. They want to bring in the idea of superimposition. They want to bring in the idea of mithyatvam, maya, and also they want to they want to explain the absolute reality in terms of different levels of the real. That is, Paramarthika, the highest transcendental reality, Vyavaharika, the empirical reality, and then the intellectual reality as an ideal. For example, in the example that we gave earlier, the Jew is the reality, the superimposition of Sarpa, the rope is the reality, the snake is actually Pradibhasika, it is conceived in mind, but the Rajju itself, Rajju means the rope, and entire empirical things constitute only the empirical reality, and absolute reality can never be perceived. In Madhva system, if you perceive anything, if you get any pratiti, when you see something with your eyes, your mind, and you try to explain it, for that very reason it is real, but not independent. It is asutantra, but it is satta. I mean, it is real, but it is not sutantra. In the sense, everything in this world, different jivas and also different empirical objects, they are real, but they are not independent. Brahman, which according to Madhvacharya means Vishnu, is the only entity that is both Swatantra and also Satta. It is real but also independent. Now, as I mentioned, this interesting thing, this is a subtle point in Vedanta. If you perceive anything with your eyes, suppose you see a chair, you see a river, you see a car, whatever you see or whatever you perceive using different senses of perception like eyes, ears, a sense of touch, sense of smell, sense of taste. And you perceive different objects using these five senses and mind. For that very reason, Advaita tells you it is not absolutely real. So whatever you perceive empirically, for the very reason that you perceive it empirically, it is not absolutely real. So if you see a tree, it means you have perceived it. For that very reason, the tree is not Paramarthika Satta. It is only Vyavaharika Satta. It is only empirically real. It is only empirical reality. It is not transcendental reality, because the transcendental reality cannot be seen with eyes, cannot be thought of with your mind, cannot be touched with your sense of touch, cannot be tasted, cannot be smelled. You cannot perceive it using your mind and five senses of perception. If you say, I have seen Brahman, it only means you don't know what Brahman is. But you don't even know that Brahman cannot be seen. That's important thing. So that is Advaita say. Madhvacharya will tell you that if you have perceived anything, for that very reason, it is real. It is absolutely real. I mentioned this, you have to keep in mind. According to Madhvacharya, if there are 10,000 mud pots in front of you, he will tell you every mud pot is essentially, fundamentally different from every other mud pot. Shankaracharya will tell you it is only mud which has taken different nama, rupa, different names and forms. Madhvacharya will tell you no, totally different. Actually, there are some schools in Indian philosophy philosophical tradition. It's called Nyaya Vaisheshika. Some of them will tell you that every new product is essentially different from its cause. For example, this philosophy is called Arambhavada. They will tell you, if you weave a cloth from thread, the cloth has nothing to do with the thread. It has nothing to do with the Upadana Karana, it is called. That is the Sanskrit name. Material cause. Suppose you have produced a mud pot, the Nyayikas and Vaisheshikas, the Arambhavadins, those who believe that every effect is a new product, is called Asatkaryavada. The opposite of Satkaryavada is Asatkaryavada. It means they believe in Arambhavada. So every mud pot is something new. It doesn't have any connection with the material cause. That's what they tell you. Madhvacharya doesn't mention that in such an emphatic language, but he says that everything in this world is different from everything else. Panchabheda Siddhanta we discussed earlier. And he continues, Sarva Parityagena Tasseva Upadanaya Advaita Diyatena, I mentioned. Kanichit Sarvasatta Pradedi Pravritti Nimittada Pradipatyartham Sarvatmagatvena Ityevam Adena Aneka Prakaraihi Paramapurusham Bodhayanti Tato Vyakulada Buddhayu Guru Sampradaya Vikalaha Sarvatrabi Ekarupadam Ananusandhana Vedam Chintanti. There is a charge. He says they are actually introducing artificial distinctions. No real artificial distinctions. I mean, Pradibhasika, Vyavaharika, Paramarthika. All these are not so clearly veiled accusations leveled against Advaita. They will tell you that Advaitins, trying to explain many of these Vedantic texts, they are bringing these new ideas because they are not able to understand the central unity of Vedic teaching, that is the multiplicity of interconnected approaches. There are multiple things, multiple entities. It's a dualistic philosophy. There are so many entities, but they are not able to see the interconnectedness. They are not able to see unity through multiplicity or within multiplicity and interconnectedness within diversity. That is the charge. You know why this is mentioned? I shall read it and then I shall explain further. Kanichit Sarvasatta Pradedi Pradivatti Nimittada Pradivatyatham Sarvatmagatvena Ityevam Adi Aneka Prakarehi Paramapurusham Bodhayanti Tato Vyakula Buddhayo. So Vyakula Buddhaya means highly confused. Is again a reference to Advaitins. They are highly confused. Vyakula Buddhayo Guru Sampradaya Vikalaha Sarvatrapi Ekarupadam Ananusandhana. They are not able to fully understand because they are not able to follow the Guru tradition, the tradition of teachers, and therefore they are not able to see this central unity of Vedic teaching through a multiplicity of interconnected approaches. And therefore what happens is they artificially create distinctions. And they say this is Pradibhasika, this is Vyavaharika, this is Paramarthika. So Maya, Mithya, all these are introduced by these Advaitins because they are not able to see this unity, this oneness, what you call Sarvatmagatvam. They are not able to see unity and also accommodate the reality of multiplicity. So the reality of interconnectedness. There are various entities in the world, but they are interconnected, and also there is an integral unity. So that's why the Advaitins say Brahma Satyam, Jagat Mithya, everything else in this world is Mithya. This is this Jaitirtha's charge against Advaita. It's a very interesting study. Here the point is, I shall try to make it clear. Again and again we have to remember the total, the shocking incapacity of many non-Advaitins to clearly understand the actual implication of Maya, Mithya, and also the logic of looking upon existence from the Paramarthika, Vyavaharika, Pradibhasika perspectives. So again you have to remember, Advaitins tell you that there is one reality which is Paramarthika, the supreme, the absolute, the unchanging, that cannot be defined, that cannot be explained, that can only be experienced as an inner mystical spiritual experience. That is why this Vidya, Brahma Vidya is Anubhava Ega Vedya. It can only be understood through one's own inner experience. And when you experience that, you understand the truth, then you don't reject the world, but you look at the world from a higher perspective. The world is there, the world is changing. Because it is changing, it is not eternal. So what is unchanging alone can be called eternal, Paramarthika Satta. So the real criteria that Advaitins employ to distinguish the Paramarthika from Vyavaharika is not always understood. According to Madhvacharya system, there is no such thing as Vyavaharika, Paramarthika distinction. Everything is either Paramarthika or Vyavaharika, this idea. Because so as reality concerned, the ontological existence is concerned, everything in this world is existing. The only difference is Vishnu is independent, everything else in this world is dependent, aswatantra. That's the only difference. Now we are coming to subject. Now, frequently they consider Shankaracharya's system as a kind of reckless monism. That means because they accuse that of Advaitins of looking at the entire panorama of creation, the whole creation as some kind of a illusion. That is also another problem. Mithya is frequently translated as illusion. I mentioned during the session on Advaita, we had about 43 sessions, that Maya or Mithya were wrongly translated into the English word illusion by the early translators, and the credit for correcting this wrong translation goes to Swami Vivekananda, who in his Jnana Yoga lectures in London emphasized the point that Maya does not mean illusion. Illusion can be just a false vision that you see. Illusion can be the result of psychological disorder, or it can be, for example, you may mistake something is existing where nothing exists. But Maya or Mithya is only mistaking something which is essentially unreal in the absolute sense. It is existing but not real in the absolute sense. You mistake that for the absolute reality. That means a mud pot is mistaken to be an entity without any change. But Vedantins Advaitins will tell you a mud pot can be crushed into mud, and again from that you may make something else, so it can change. So it is only Vyavaharika. So again, of course there are certain views, Madhvacharya, he wrote some important book on Mahabharata. He says, Sarado Jagada Krishna Adirikto Janardana. He quotes certain statements from Mahabharata, for example, God is greater than his creation, so God is different from creation. Now, interestingly, I mentioned just now, at the beginning of this session, quoting Jayatirtha's statement, Sarvanebihi Vedanta Vakyani Asankheya Kalyana Gunagaram Sagala Dosha Gandhavidhiram Ekarupameva Param Brahma. I mentioned earlier the quotation from Jayatirtha's Nyaya Sudha, that many of these Upanishadic texts, without any exception, that is Madhvacharya's view, speak of Brahman, speak of the absolutely Adi Vishnu as a repository, as an abode of all auspicious qualities. Now remember, in Shankaracharya's commentary, at the very beginning, in Bodhgata, I think, or Gita Bhashya, commentary on the Bhagavad Gita, Shankaracharya also makes a statement apparently not unlike this view. Such a Bhagavan, Jnana, Aishwarya, Shakti, Bala, Virya, Tejo, Abhisada, Sampannaka, etc. So, in the Gita commentary, in the Dvaita commentary by Shankaracharya, at the very beginning, such a Bhagavan. So, Bhaga is a quality. Knowledge, prosperity, power, strength, vigor, and effulgence, all conceivable qualities. Jnana, Aishwarya, Shakti, Bala, Virya, Tejo, Abhisada, Sampannaha. Shankaracharya himself says, he qualifies Bhagavan. Vishnu, same Vishnu is referred to in the Gita Bhashya. And that Vishnu is endowed with Jnana, Aishwarya, Shakti, Bala, Virya, Teja, all these qualities. Power, auspiciousness, prosperity, strength, and so on. Vigor and all that. The point is, Shankaracharya says, this concept is real, but this is from a relative perspective. When you live in this world, thinking that this world is real, then you should also believe there is somebody who is cause for this world, who has created this world. And that cause, if you define the final cause, the original cause of the universe, as a creator, then you should also attribute to that creator certain important characteristics. You should characterize that creator, God, as being endowed with certain auspicious qualities like power, strength, knowledge, and so on. But as part of your spiritual evolution, when you reach a higher level of spiritual evolution, then when we realize that this absolute reality of God is not different from His creation, is residing in everything, He is all-pervading in everything, He also transcends everything, and is one spiritual principle. When we reach that level of spiritual evolution or spiritual growth, then what you do is you go beyond this conception of God as being endowed with all these attributes. So, the idea of God being endowed with all attributes is also acceptable for Advaitins, but at a level just below the highest transcendental status, transcendental attainment. When you reach the highest level of spiritual knowledge, then you don't reject, you never reject the monotheistic created God idea, you only go beyond it. So this is a very important thing. This is a very important thing. Advaita does not reject the monotheistic idea of a creator God, as you find in Ramanuja, Madhva, Vallabha, Nimbarka, Chaitanya, and so on. and also in Abrahamic traditions. But Advaita only goes beyond, it does not reject. This is an important thing to remember. So I just casually mentioned this. Now we continue. Now, of course, there are some similarities in certain ways. For example, frequently many Dvaitins also quote certain verses from Advaitic text. This is called Drisya Viveka. According to popular view, it is a work by Shankaracharya, but according to some other later researchers, it is written by one of the Shankaracharya of Sringeri, one of the abbots of Sringeri much, not Adi Shankaracharya himself. Anyway, it's a well-known book, a small, very small book, Drisya Viveka. Proper understanding, discerning wisdom that you attain by observing, by understanding what the seen and the seer, the perceived and the perceiver. Drishya means what is perceived, what is comprehended, and druk means drashta, means the one who perceives, the seer. So it's a well-known book. Asti bhadi priyam rupam nama chetyam shapanchakam aditrayam brahma rupam jagadrupam tatodvayam. It's something very interesting to compare some of these well-known books. So, there is a well-known book in Madhva tradition. It is called Mandara Manjari. Actually, it is a combination of books. It is a gloss or a tiga, a small footnote like small description or interpretation of three dialectical works, very fierce dialectical works written by Madhvacharya, refuting some of the views of Advaita. It's called Mayavada Khandanam, Upadhi Khandanam, and Prapancha Mithyattvada Khandanam. Refutation of the idea of Maya and refutation of the idea that Brahman reflects in the limiting agents Upadhi, and also refutation of the view of refutation of the Advaitins' view that this world is mithya. And there is a gloss was written on each of these by a well-known author. So that book is collectively called Mandara Manjari. It's written by Vyasatirtha, the celebrated author of Nyayamruta, which is arguably the most complex and the most subtle dialectical work in the Dvaita tradition. So, according to him, for example, he says Surupa Pramidi Pravritti Lakshanam Satta Traividyam. So, Jayatirtha refers to this actually. So, Surupa Pramidi Pravritti, which means three aspects of existence, three aspects of reality. What are the three aspects of reality? Very similar to the Advaitin's book, Drisya Viveka. What are three aspects? One is Surupa, the existence, the Pramidi, consciousness, and Prabhuti, activity. So what are the criteria for judging whether something is real or not? It should have its own identical experience, its own individual entity, its own Surupa. It should have its own identity. And second is that it should have its own consciousness. So every jiva in this world is conscious of his own existence. And pravritti, that is, these three aspects of reality is mentioned by Jayatirtha. in his, he refers from this Mandara Manjari. He referring to Mandara Manjari statement. Now, in Advaita tradition, Asti Bhadi Priyam Chaiva, something called Asti Bhadi Priyam Rupam Namam Chetyamsha Panchakam. So here, Asti Bhadi Priyam, that is existence, consciousness and bliss, they together constitute Brahman, the absolute reality. So again, we should not get away with the impression that this constitutes a definition of Brahman, because Brahman cannot be defined. But so far as we are concerned, short of that higher mystical experience which cannot be explained, because the highest level of understanding Brahman is inner mystical experience, which is beyond words, beyond definitions and beyond verbalizations. But intellectually, when we try to understand, then we can only understand Brahman as Asti Bhadi Priyam. It is the absolute existence, it is the absolute consciousness, it is the absolute bliss, Satchidananda. So, they constitute our highest approach, our highest effort to understand intellectually the reality of Brahman. Again, it is below the highest inner spiritual experience or Jiva Brahmaikyam. So, Aditrayam Brahmarupam. So, Asti Bhadi Priyam constitute Brahman. Then, Rupam Nama, which constitute the Jagat. Rupam is the form, Nama is the name. Different names and forms, which constitute this world. Now, according to Madhva, Jayatirtha and Vyasatirtha, this Nama and Rupa are real, names and forms are real, and they are not superimpositions. That's what Madhvacharya says. I mentioned earlier, names and forms give them the status of reality, but not the status of independence. They are not independent, but they are real. In other words, in Madhvacharya's ontology, everything in this world is real, but everything is not independent. Vishnu alone is independent, Swatantra. Everything else is dependent on Vishnu. It is Aswatantra. But again, when Advaitins tell you it is a superimposition, Madhvacharya, it is not a superimposition. So, when Advaitins tell you this world is a superimposition, what do they mean actually? They do not mean that this world is illusion. No. That surprisingly, many English books written both by Indian authors and also authors from outside India, they often use the word illusion to refer to mithya or maya. But that is also a great problem intellectually. Maya or mithya is not precisely what the word illusion means in English language. Something that we consider to be real in the absolute sense, till we recognize that it is not absolutely real. That's the idea behind. The world is mithya, world is not illusion, world is real. But that status of reality is not on the same level with the highest reality, that's Brahman or Paramarthika Satta. It is only Vyavaharika Satta. So again you have to remember, the Vyavaharika Paramarthika distinction is not recognized by either Ramanuja or Madhvacharya. Therefore, very often the word mithya is often misunderstood and misinterpreted as asat or non-existence. So when Advaitins tell you the world is mithya, very often it is understood that Advaitins tell you the world doesn't exist. That is absolutely wrong. Dvaita doesn't tell you the world does not exist. Not only that, and I want to emphasize this point. In the Buddhist tradition, there is one school of philosophy called, it's called Vijnanavada. Vijnanavada is one of the two idealistic schools of Buddhism which emerged between 2nd century BC and it flourished right up to 5th or 6th century AD. When Shankaracharya had to write his book, he had to refer to all these schools. And according to one school of Vijnanavadins, called Pravritti Vijnana, the later Vijnanavadins, they deny the reality of objective world. They don't accept. So everything is illusion to them. So when you hear somewhere, when you read somewhere, that Advaitins depict this world as an illusion, you should remember Shankaracharya himself took pains to refute this school of illusionism propounded by Vijnanavadins in his Brahmasutra Bhashya. In his Brahmasutra Bhashya he says, this world is Ubalabdhi. Now Ubalabdhe, he says, the world is being perceived. We live in this world. We are part of this world. Till when? Till we realize, till we experience the Brahmajnanam. Not intellectual conviction, but till we experience Brahmajnanam. Till then, this world cannot be called as non-existent. It's a very important point to remember. And he has actually refuted this school of Vijnanavada, who argued that everything the objective world is unreal. This is important. Again, okay, one of there's a very famous statement in Madhvacharya Bhashya. This is Prag Brahmatma Vijnanat Sarva Loka Vyavharanam Satyatva Bhatti Yadha Swapna Drishta Seva Prag Prabodhat. It's a famous statement. Prag Brahmatma Vijnanat Sarva Loka Vyavharanam Satyatva Bhatti. Till we actually experience the truth of Brahma Satyam Jagat Mithya, till then we should live in this world as if everything is Sarva Loka Vyavharanam Satyatva Bhatti. We will certainly feel all these worldly activities, the world, everything is real. How a comparison is given, there's a comparison here. The comparison is very striking. It says, a man who is sleeping is dreaming different objects. While he is dreaming, he is still in dream, those dream objects are real. Only when he wakes up, then he looks back, he will understand, oh, they were all part of dream. So you have no right, you cannot say that your dream objects are unreal when you are in dream. The unreality of dream objects becomes obvious only when you come out of dream. Similarly, when we transcend the empirical realm and when we attain the highest transcendental experience, till then the world is practically real for us. Sarva Loka Vyavharanam Satyatva Bhatti. All empirical transactions, activities will almost be like real. But the unreality of all these empirical things becomes obvious only when you transcend them. Before that, even as a concept, it has got a great value, no doubt about it, which we discussed in one of my lectures in the Vedanta Society Sunday lecture. That is why Dvaita matters. We can see that lecture a few weeks ago. Now we can have interaction. You are most welcome. Thank you.
Thank you, Maharaj.
Thank you.
I just want to confirm my understanding.
Hello? Yeah.
I want to confirm my understanding.
Yeah.
From the superimposition of the snake on the rope, the Pratibhasika Satyam is the snake.
Yeah.
You bring the light. to experience Vyavaharika Satya,
Yeah,
which is that it is a rope.
yeah,
And from a Paramarthika point of view,
yeah.
it is obviously material, therefore it is definitely not Sat.
Yeah, yeah.
Subject to wear and tear.
Okay, very. It's a very,
Definitely not
very,
sentient.
yeah. Thank you for asking this very important question. In fact, gives me a chance to say something, emphasize something which I often, when we give a lecture, these questions will help you. One point to remember is when we go beyond the pratibhasika and recognize the higher reality of Vyavaharika, then we go beyond Pratibhasika. When you attain the Paramarthika, then only you go beyond Vyavaharika. So when you reach Vyavaharika level, you cancel, rather the Pratibhasika is cancelled. When you reach the Paramarthika level, then Vyavaharika is cancelled. I can explain focusing on the same example that we are discussing. That is Rajju Sapabhranti or the snake rope analogy. Now here, as you mentioned, the snake is only Pratibhasika because it is only an intellectual concept. It's only, the snake exists only in our mind, only in our memory. Smriti Rupa, Adhyasa is Smriti Rupa. Because you have seen the snake in the zoo or in the forest or somewhere. So you superimpose it on something that is very similar in color and shape. So when you bring light, of course, the Pratibhasika is cancelled. And what you are doing is, you understand it is Vyavaharika, the rope. The rope and this world, the cosmos, the galaxies, the stars, everything is within Vyavaharika. So the rope, the room where this is found, the universe, everything is Vyavaharika. When you practice sadhana sadhushta sampatti, spiritual disciplines, through karma yoga, in one life or maybe at the end of several life cycles, when you attain the knowledge of Brahman, at that time only you transcend, you go beyond, or you cancel Vyavaharika. Because at that time you realize Paramarthika. So when you recognize the Vyavaharika, the Pratibhasika is cancelled. When you attain the Paramarthika, the absolute, then Vyavaharika is also cancelled. Not only that, go downward, suppose you think such a thing doesn't exist. Sesavishana, the horns of a hare, it is asat. It is not even a pratibhasika reality. It is something that cannot be even conceived of. Pratibhasika, the snake, you can conceive because you can think of it because you have seen, the memory is there. But the horns of a hare, you cannot conceive of because the hare can never have horns. But suppose you mistake something as absolutely non-existent, like the horns of a hare, and then you suddenly read in a newspaper such a thing actually exists. Then from asat, from absolute non-existence, you reach the point of intellectual conceivable reality, like snake. So you can see that at the lowest level is the absolute non-existence. At the highest level is the absolute existence, which is Brahman. This is the idea behind. So it is an absolutely wonderful, very logical, very precise analysis of ontology in world philosophy. The Shankaracharya's concept of Paramarthika, Vyavaharika, Pratibhasika, etc. The absolute wonder is, the mystery is, it is so wrongly misrepresented, misunderstood, and then you can find so many arguments. So it is surprising for everyone, but you have to remember. You may ask this question: why Vyasatirtha wrote this Mayavada Khandanam, Prapancha Mithyattvada Khandanam, etc.? Why did he take cudgels against all this? The reason is in those days, you have to remember, philosophical schools were not purely philosophical schools. They have become cults. So when you are part of a cult, you don't philosophically, logically analyze the philosophy that your cult is projecting. You are born to defend it, no matter what it is. It's almost like a political ideology in modern times. So when you actually, after a thorough understanding of Advaita, you're simply shocked and surprised. Why at all did Ramanuja write all this? So Madhvacharya and many others. Maya doesn't mean illusion, according to Advaita. But they always write as if Maya is illusion. Remember. So, Mithyatvam. That's again highly misunderstood. See, I can give one quotation in the Mithyatvam. Pratipanna ubadho traikalika nishedha pradiyogitvam va mithyatvam. There are 5 important definitions referred to in Dvaita Siddhi, and actually there were these definitions of mithyatvam written, projected by Advaitins, were refuted by Vyasatirtha in Nyayamrita, and were defended by Madhusudana Saraswati and Dvaita Siddhi. And the first one is Panchapadika, a book written by Padmapada. Panchapadika is a well-known book written by Padmapada on Brahma Sutras. Now, there he says, Pratipanno badho traikalika nishedha pradiyogitvam va mithyatvam. Pratipanno badhi means, suppose you are perceiving something in front of you. You are seeing, you are comprehending, using your mind, your intellect and your senses. You are seeing something. Now, because you are seeing it, because you are objectifying it, you are the seer, you are seeing that. Just because you are objectifying that object, you are seeing that object, for that very reason, Advaitins will tell you it is not absolutely real. Why? It cannot remain the same without any change in Trikala, in 3 levels of time, that is past, present and future. Traikalika nishedha pradiyogitvam. In reality, it doesn't exist without any change in the past, present and future. Therefore, even when you are seeing this world, then also, actually it is not absolute reality. But you mistake it for absolute reality. The reason is, we are not reached that Advaitic experience. See, a Jivan Mukta, a liberated soul, an enlightened person, let's say, I can give those who have seen Sita Makshana, at some levels of transcendental experience, Sita Makshana transcended, went beyond this world. At that moment in Samadhi, he went beyond this world. The world did not exist for him at that time. Then he had to forcibly bring his mind to this world, empirical consciousness. So Sri Ramakrishna will say, please give me water, drink water. You have to drink water. Because when you drink water, for that you have to you come to Dvaita level. So Ravana Maharshi is staring at something. At that time he is in Advaitic experience. But when he is walking with his cow around, you can see the video, you can see he is talking to people, he is supervising the distribution of food to devotees who are coming to Tiruvannamalai. At that time he is not in Advaita. He is in Dvaita only. Otherwise, why should he make sure that idli is properly cooked or food is properly cooked? He was doing all that as an ordinary person. So, Advaita doesn't mean that you are standing there like a statue or without eating, without food. No, nothing of the kind. Advaita is state of experience. So, if an avadhuta or a jnani will not always remain in that state of experience. He will be living in this world. When Shankaracharya is walking all over India, He was not in Advaita mood, he was writing books. You don't write books in Advaita mood. You don't write poetical classics, devotional classics in Advaitic mood, in verses. He wrote so many verses, so many poetical classics, works. So you remember. Thank you. Okay.
Thank you, Maharaj. C. Gopinath, please.
Yeah.
Swamiji, I have a question on clarifying terminology.
Yeah.
You mentioned that Madhvacharya considers Vishnu as the supreme.
Yeah.
In Madhvacharya's writings, does he make a distinction between Vishnu and Brahman, or does he consider them as synonymous?
No. He doesn't make any distinction. For him, Brahman, when he uses the Brahman, is Vishnu is implied here.
Okay.
Yeah.
So he considers them synonymous.
Yeah, synonymous.
Because in Advaita, you were talking about Brahman
that is
considered
true.
one level higher.
That's true. In Ramananda system also, the word Brahman is used in the sense that he means the highest absolute reality. In that sense, the word Brahman is used. But not the Brahman as understood by Advaitins.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah. Madhvacharya was a great devotee of God, like Ramanuja. Okay.
There was another hand up, but it has been dropped. So I'll ask a question. Maharaj, with respect, I see David's hand, but I'll continue. Just a sec, Dave. With respect to the inherent qualities of the other systems,
Yeah.
and without taking too much to heart the attempted refutations of Advaita Vedanta, is there a it's actually a David type question. Is there a practical aspect to reference to transcendental reality and insistence on unqualified non-dualism in terms of non-attachment? Does it help in terms of witnessing this world as not an absolute reality?
Yeah. Sri Ramakrishna once said, you have to keep knowledge in your pocket, Advaitic knowledge, and then work in this world. With one hand, so on the one hand, you have to work in this world, live in this world, but keep Advaita somewhere maybe in your pocket. So whenever we find things are not going well, Advaita will tell you to look upon this everyday world as something impermanent, as something changing, and for that very reason as non-absolute. So in actual practice, we face problems in this world, whether it is health problem, is losing money when banks collapse, stock markets collapse, or when a near and dear ones goes away, whatever it is, any different kinds of challenges and problems. So when the worry becomes too intense, you can use this common sense, which actually manifests an expression of Advaita. Everything is bound to change. Everything in this world is, by its very nature, impermanent. So nothing is permanent in this world. It's a simple common sense. And actually today I was discussing Buddhism, Buddha's Four Noble Truths, and also his middle path, means 8 disciplines. Buddha's on mindfulness, Satipatthana Sutta. It's a Pali work, Mahasatipatthana Sutta, which is a much bigger one. So he actually, when you are aware of something and also you are detached, but you are aware. How do you detach? Because you know it is impermanent. Buddhism emphasizes. But you should be aware of that. So awareness, that is smriti, and of course detachment. So in fact, this is the implication of Sri Ramakrishna's statement. You should keep jnanam in your pocket. So Advaita even can be used as a great counseling principle, really. Because it's a fact. The problem is Advaita doesn't come down to the level of simple spiritual common sense. If it ever became a matter of simple common sense, then we can use it in our everyday life. It is not only Advaita, it is just mad. If you are a good physicist, I don't think Einstein will tell you this world is going to remain the same without any change. Heisenberg, uncertainty principle. Do you think he will agree that the world, do you think he is going to agree with Madhvacharya? Einstein, Heisenberg, they will gladly jump at Advaita. But again, it doesn't mean that immediately they will grow a beard and go to Himalayas. No. Advaita, even from a layman's point of view, from a purely intellectual point of view, it makes a lot of sense. Not that you have reached that, you attain that inner mystical experience like a Ramana Maharshi or Sri Ramakrishna or a Shankaracharya, no, or Vivekananda. No, not in that sense. But when you read it, it makes so much of sense. It's everyday common sense actually. So, that's why. Now the funny point is that both Ramanujan and Madhvacharya showed an extraordinary incapacity to understand the true implications of concepts like Maya, Mithya, Vidya, etc. That is really astounding. As I mentioned earlier, when it becomes a cult, then you defend that cult. This is an important thing to remember. So in India, it's called Sampradaya. So Vaishnava Sampradaya, Ramanuja Sampradaya, Madhva Sampradaya. So they have certain, with all respect I'm telling, but have to, in modern times, actually I had many discussions on the subject with Madhvas and Ramanujais. So they agree. So, when you become part of a Sampradaya, then you think you draw this line on your forehead in a specific manner, and you go to temple in a specific manner, you perform a ritual in a specific manner, and then you have to do it. They may not read Madhvacharya's well-known books. Madhvacharya is a great writer, 37 important books he wrote. Jayatirtha's commentaries, Vyasatirtha is an astounding dialectician. They may not read it, but they feel they are bound to defend it. So it becomes a cult. Advaita is not a cult. You want any proof? You can find a total stranger, Paul Brunton living in New York, a British journalist living in New York at the turn of 20th century, hearing about Advaita, takes a ship to India, goes to Chennai and goes to Ramana Maharshi's ashrama. That's the beginning of a new life for him. It doesn't mean that he had attained his Advaita Anubhuti experience, but it means he understood the truth of it. That's something captivating. That may not happen when you read Madhvacharya's book. You follow? It is fascinating. He was a great devotee. All of them are very great sages and saints and devotees. But as you remember, that's the strength of cult. The point is, in Advaita, there is no barrier. All doors are open in all directions. You can find everywhere you find. Because Advaita is talking about some supreme reality that makes you feel humanity is one. Remember, it's not that Shankaracharya meant all this. No, I have to admit that. Shankaracharya really only 32 years. And in the midst of what all he did, 10 monastic orders, 4 monasteries in 4 distant corners of India, installed temples, consecrated temples, wrote magnificent spiritual poetry, argued with the greatest pandits of those days all over India, traveled all over Indian subcontinent 4 times, and founded 10 monastic orders, all this, and wrote the greatest philosophical classics in Sanskrit language, all in 32 years. So he did not mean that one day, he did not anticipate one day when Paul Brunton will be attracted by Advaita and go to India, or Paul Deussen for that matter. No. The point is, Advaita is something that makes you feel that it's your own destination. That's what happened to Schopenhauer. Of course, he did not read Shankara's commentaries. He may have read some translations because maybe they did not exist in those days. But Advaita is from Upanishads. So it is our own spiritual journey because it's not a cult. It doesn't have closed doors. It's open to everyone. So this fascination, this urge for the universal, for something that unifies, that harmonizes, which is latent in all noble human beings, that's what Advaita captures. That's why, because it is not a cult. That's the idea behind it.
Maharaj, sometimes you get the sense that the critics in developing laborious refutations are actually showing great respect for the original.
Yeah, true. So thank you. Now, David, please go. Yeah, please.
Hello, Swami.
Yeah.
I had a question. Is we hear from you about Madhava arguing with the Advaitins. Did he ever argue with the Ramanuja, the Vishishta Advaitins?
Yeah, Madhvacharya thought that Ramanuja was not sharp enough in criticizing Advaita. So he wanted to go an extra mile. So, Madhva system is the sharpest reaction against Advaita, the polar opposite. So, because he traveled all over South India when he founded this movement. And he had arguments with many of the followers of Ramanuja as well. And he felt that Ramanuja system is not sharp enough in criticizing Advaita. So he wanted to do an extra mile. Remember, again I had to remember, they were all great saints. One should never get the wrong impression that they were all great saintly people who practiced non-violence, who practiced spiritual qualities. But again, as defenders or founders of certain philosophical schools, they wrote books and they taught their disciples. I think in Indian tradition, this is very often true. You may go to temple every day morning and do puja and worship, and then you write books on Advaita, which tell you that you can go to temple, but spirituality is beyond going to temples as a ritual. So there is no better example for this. Shankaracharya was writing all these dialectical works and he was writing devotional poetry all the time. And so you can imagine. Okay. So thank you. We had a very wonderful session. Next week we'll continue. So, okay.
Thank you, Swami.
Thank you. Namaskar. Thank you.